Hey, everybody, it's Bishop Megan Rohr, and we are going to learn about the Sierra Pacific Synod's newest staff member. Slow reveal.
Hey.
Hi, newest staff member.
Hi.
How do you self-identify, and what do you think your name is?
Oh, that's a great question. So my name is JJ Godwin. I use they, them pronouns. Yeah, that was your question. Want to know more?
Yeah, what do you think your job is?
Ooh, great question. Well, as an executive assistant to the bishop, I kind of do all things calendaring, figuring things out from a schedule perspective. So if you're thinking that you want to, join in with the bishop or have the bishop visit you in some way, please feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm JJ at spselca.org. Other things that I do is kind of coordinate things within the Synod location here. We're in Millbrae, California, and our office is here, and taking care and loving the office space, making sure that it's well taken care of, setting up the printers, doing all the things. And eventually we're trying to work towards doing things around chaplaincy. One of my big loves and passions is being a chaplain, and looking forward to coordinating with other chaplains that are out there and other folks who really have care for chaplains and chaplaincy in the world. So love to talk more about that too. That's me.
What about your vocation?
Oh, my vocation. Well, I am graduating very, very shortly with my MDiv from Luther Seminary. Yay. And I am working for ordination for word and service. So I'm going into diaconal ministry. That is the call that I have and what I seek.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is there a particular way that you're choosing to be a deacon? Is there a community that you're seeking to affiliate with?
Actually, I'm wearing my pin today. I'm walking in formation with the Deaconess community of the ELCA, and we are compelled by the love of Christ to do good work. Why, thank you. And
that's Pastor Sharon. That's our Synod treasurer.
Oh, fantastic. Great to see you technologically, Pastor Sharon. Walking in formation with the Deaconess community, and really enjoying being among some amazing people there.
What's a deaconess?
Yeah, deaconess. So deaconesses have historical relevance and significance, way back from the German days, coming over, facilitating mother houses, caring for the ill, taking care of each other in sickness. And currently, as deaconesses, they are a group of women-bodied people who, love Christ and are in community and in faith formation with each other, and are served to diaconal ministry in different ways, from different levels along the last 150 some odd years.
How does it sit with you in your current understanding of yourself and your current understanding of what it means to be in affiliation with the deaconesses, to be someone who uses they, them pronouns, but also like a gendered word like deaconess?
Yeah, absolutely. And ultimately sister, right? Like that to me is a religious distinction. And it's something that I am very called to because I really respect that order. And at the same time, I recognize that I am female assigned at birth. I did not have a choice in that. And at this point, I recognize myself as a genderqueer person and use they, them pronouns. The Deaconess community has done an amazing job in the last, 3-4 years, maybe even 5, really allowing and including as many trans people as they can, and trying to contain within their work, being still focused on the female gender. So allowing me to walk in formation with them is kind of an interesting place for all of us to be. And we're still in discernment and figuring that out and caring for each other well and asking lots of relevant questions. And it's an amazing place to be, an amazing time to be with them.
And you're still in the candidacy process, which we think might resolve itself at the end of May.
That's
right?
The hope, yeah.
And then
looking forward to approval conversations at the end of May.
Yeah, so add that to your list of prayers, JJ's candidacy process.
Please, yes.
Being a deacon is not something everyone knows about, but something we're super excited about in our synod in particular, because it used to be that some people thought being a pastor was like a hierarchy of ways that you can be, but the way that we try to think about things is to say that there are different types of calls in the world. Some people want to do word and sacrament being communion and baptism. And some people want to do word and service. Not to say that pastors can't do service or that deacons never do communion, because sometimes they get special permission to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
But if you feel mostly called to doing service in the world and not necessarily to the baptism and communion element, deaconing might be a thing for you. If you feel more called to the baptisms and the sacraments and not so much to the worldly parts, you always want to be in a congregation, then ordained being a pastor might be for you. But there's also all kinds of levels in between of ways that people can serve. It used to be that being a deacon was one of the ways that you could remain a layperson and still serve the church in kind of a professional way without that ordination service. But in the last few years, us ELCA Lutherans have begun ordaining deacons and saying that their level of service is equal to those who are serving in congregational settings. And so you might hear that more types of people are considering being a deacon as the term becomes more recognized or seen more often as an equality thing. And so that's work that we're continuing to do in our synod, to lift up deacons and deaconesses and all of the ways that people serve the church in between, so that people will know that the various ways that you are called by God are good and important.
And I think there's a lovely opportunity for accompaniment. I think we focus a lot on pastors, and rightly so. I think there's a great opportunity for both and for deacons to be walking alongside pastors and those churches. A lot of people are called to be inside the church and provide service in that church, and learning a little bit more about what that diaconal ministry might mean, and maybe perhaps feeling a call to go to seminary, or even doing some work, learning more about kind of what does faith formation even look like, can be a really great opportunity to support pastors in some really great ways, and therefore congregations. So I'm really eager to see that happen in the church.
And you have an unusual job description, one that, dare I say, people thought could not be filled by a single human being, because I secretly was like, we want a deacon. But a job description that is both chaplaincy work and being an executive assistant. And lo and behold, a person with those similar qualities exists in the world. Will you tell people a little bit about some of your executive assistants kind of background and some of the breadth of field that's on your resume, just so people are like, what? Yeah. Executive assistant, can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am technically a third, but a second vocation person. I spent about 20 years in banking and project management and executive assisting and supporting all kinds of various levels within that work. And so I bring all of that love and experience that I did there. And along the way, I felt the call to go to seminary, like a lot of people do in their second careers. And as part of that, I really spent about a year and a half in chaplaincy, and realized that those components really work well together, that there's a lot of management work that needs to be done even in hospital spaces or in chaplain spaces or in synod offices. And I love being in that intersectionality of being able to use multiple parts of myself at the same time. And what a beauty and a gift to have a job description that fits so many different parts of who I am. So just a real privilege to be here.
So the kind of benefit of having someone who has so many years working in fancy financial institutions is that as we are trying to figure out as a synod, like maybe some of your congregations are trying to figure out, how do we streamline our finances? How do we do things that are kind of following some of the new technology options that different types of banking worlds have? We don't invent these ideas on our own. We have a beloved treasurer, and we have Diana, who is our finance and stewardship director. But to have another person in the office who has a kind of robust experience thinking about some of the ways that banking can be easier, or maybe less needing a lot of staff people in order to manage it, and to think through some of the ways we can responsibly do some of that money management part, is like an added bonus of having someone with all those years of experience. Have you found this is now a week and a half. And did you tell everyone that you moved across the country?
I did not.
You should tell them you moved across the country.
So the interesting part is I did move across the country. I was just recently in Texas in the Fort Worth area. My spouse is currently in Houston, living with their parents at this point as we're looking for space here in California. But the irony is I was born not too far away from here. So this is like a coming home all at the same time for me. I lived here in California in the San Francisco region up until I was about 12, and then Los Angeles for about decade and a half, and then over to Texas along with my job that moved over there when I was working for the bank. So yeah, it's interesting to come back and be here and figure out different clothing styles because it is very warm in Texas right now and not so warm here, which I love. So yeah, it's been really great kind of moving back here and just being part of this space. So yeah.
And did you mention the dog?
Yes, I have a dog.
There are people who will want to know that.
Yes, if you are dog people, we have Radar. I'm sure he'll make an appearance. He has his own backpack. He's a small dog, a little black and white Chihuahua Dachshund mix, just a whole bunch of little cute mutt. But he loves to hang out in the backpack. I was just at an internship site in Garland, Texas. That's what I finished up just before coming here. And unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to bring him, but we were a dog congregation. And I really someday want to do worship with him on my back. Like that is a dream of mine. So
he lives in a backpack on your back?
Mm-hmm. He can hang out in a backpack and it has his own name on it and everything. And he just, when he is in there, he feels safe and he's very calm and chill, hangs out. Yeah. Well, he's a good guy.
Not this year's Synod Assembly, but maybe next year's Synod
down the
Assembly.
road. Who knows? Yeah. It might be fun. Yeah.
I'm a cat person.
I know.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We've
had cats. Yeah. And I do love cats. They are good. And yours are amazing. They like jump in and steal attention and do really cool things. So
yeah. JJ has researched all of our live stream videos in order to prepare for this and understands that I ask sometimes off-key questions, and you prepared for many of them.
I did.
Thanks, do not Catherine. Even recall the number of questions I asked some of our other staff people, but apparently I asked Catherine what their favorite vegetable is.
Yes.
So
Catherine, just for you, I too like broccoli, but I am a butter and lemon person, and it needs to be cooked. Like the raw broccoli, meh, it's okay, but cooked broccoli with some butter and lemon, good stuff right there.
All right.
Yeah. But you not. I know it's okay.
Broccoli's fine. I just think if you're gonna take all that time to chew, it should be like peanut brittle or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It isn't a vegetable, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's not a vegetable. That's exactly right.
I'm more of a fruit person too. I love avocados, which is one of the reasons I love being back in California because there's so much great fruit in season.
Yes. You got to go to the southern parts and the Central Valley parts of our Synod and be there on a day when all the stands are out saying cherries.
Yes.
It's good.
Amazing stuff there. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Very good. Well, JJ is the person you reach out to if you need to get on my calendar, I guess. And if you need to somehow figure out a way to send a message to me, I guess is the new way we're thinking of it.
Something like that.
But also, I'm so excited, you guys, because you know that I'm a chaplain and have been a chaplain for the San Francisco Police Department. I have served on the board at the Sojourn Chaplaincy here in San Francisco General Hospital and doing chaplaincy with the night ministry out on the streets with the homeless and hungry, and did that for a lot of years and had this sort of vision that I've spoken about a little bit that I think some of you are excited about, something called the Lutheran Chaplaincy Corps, with the idea that with the number of emergencies and disasters, particularly the amount of fires and other things that have happened in our synod, that we could be people who are learning together some of the chaplaincy skills that will help us serve the neighborhoods that are around us. But maybe in the future, we could have a group of people who have been training together or know who all of the chaplains are in our region and be able to respond out so that if there is a space that has experienced an emergency or a disaster, that when their pastor is tired, we could go and preach there, or we could bring gift cards. We can respond in the ways that Lutherans just do, especially when those congregations might be the pastors and members might be worried about their own homes and their own safety, but there might be some need for support. And so if you are interested in any of those things, you can contact JJ. We're still trying to figure out what that would look like. It's more of a dream and a vision at this point. And if we raise enough money for that dream and vision, maybe there's a day where the chaplaincy part becomes the full part of JJ's responsibility. But heck, if you got somebody who's got 20 years experience being an executive assistant, you use all the skills you can get as often as possible.
Amen.
But do you want to talk a little bit about chaplaincy and why it's something you feel called to? And
yeah, absolutely. So somewhere along the way, I realized that I really found a connection for my own mental health and my well-being in listening and creating spaces for other people. Like that work of listening to myself, I can extend to listening to other people. And so a lot of the work that I did an internship at UT Southwestern and Terrell State Mental Health Hospital. And really, I think even to the point where I've worked as a peer supporter, just really being available to people. And I think that ability to walk alongside and accompany individuals who are just not knowing where they're at and what they're dealing with and how to be in the world and all the fears and the feelings that we have that sometimes in ministry spaces we're not always very comfortable with is definitely a place that I feel grounded in and a skill I really appreciate and I'm willing to share. So I think one of the things that I'm really eager to see as we start to build conversations about a ministry core of this sort, of a chaplaincy type core, is to find individuals who are interested in developing that skill and want to, or even have it and are incredibly skilled at it and I can learn something from, and build a community of people who can support each other through that type of work. Because I think it's incredibly important work in our church, especially as people are moving through COVID and figuring themselves out into whatever we're in this time, this liminal time that we're in now, and are dealing with that kind of stress and need to have a support structure of people who are willing to rally around them and to hear them out and not kind of fix it, but rather just be present and available. And that's really important to me.
And you mentioned that you spent some formative time in CPE, which stands for Clinical Pastoral Education. And it's a thing that all people who end up becoming professional pastors in the Lutheran Church spend some time, usually in a hospital setting, but sometimes in other diverse spaces where they care for people as chaplains. And the goal is to give people life experience with the cycles of life and death and tragedy, and so that they can care for people in the world when they encounter their own emergencies and have maybe a deepness and a maturity to their prayer life in case in their lived experience they haven't already encountered that. But to try to work out how to be in good relationship with people in those time periods. What was your clinical pastoral education experience like? Where did you serve? What was it like?
Yeah, so I served at UT Southwestern, which is an incredibly large and extraordinarily affluent hospital in the Dallas area. And it was not only a receiving hospital, it had level 1 trauma care, but it also took the overflow for our Parkland Hospital, which is kind of a state-run agency hospital. And so it was really interesting to find the intersection between, say, pastoral care and, say, social work, right? Like there's so much need. And when I'm working in a place that has incredible affluency to it, how do we care for folks who kind of feel out of place in that? And what does it look like to make sure that they're feeling whole and complete? So I spend a lot of time really looking for that, whether it be, ensuring that we're ADA compliant and using, our language lines or interpreters or translators to our best possibility, that we're making sure that folks are feeling supported not only for their physical health that they might be there for, but also their mental and spiritual health, like making sure all intersections are there. And spent a lot of time also in the psychiatric unit, which, at first, a lot of people when they're going into a hospital, think of, incredible, potentially stressful times in a psychiatric unit. And to the contrary, I think a lot of times people are really seeking respite and solace and care and treatment. So I spent a lot of time doing spiritual trainings and kind of creative outlets and ways that we can live into our spirituality in kind of more in an ecumenical space, which is so important because, not everybody follows the belief systems that we do. And that's definitely something part of clinical pastoral education that we learn is to, encourage conversation about God in all different aspects and ways that might show up in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, you talked about ADA, which is the American Disabilities Act, and about mental health care. You also have some experience as a peer facilitator. Will you speak a little bit about kind of your care for people on different levels of mental health spectrums?
Yeah, absolutely. So peer supporter itself is a designation that is done in mental health spaces. And it's my lived experience with my own mental health recovery and the work within that. And being a space for someone to be able to talk to that. So sometimes peer supporters might show up in clinics or in crisis hotlines. We have something called the Warm Line that exists out there in the world, and really aren't necessarily fixers, but rather listeners and ability to reflect back to folks kind of what they're hearing. So take that into now ministry, right? I've also done some research and studying and some education around peer support ministry, which is really seen a lot in young adult and youth ministry, very commonly a part of the world there. So it's taking all of the different lived parts of my experience and providing that same support, whether it be mental health or the LGBT community, different types of diagnosis that I might have, and being able to be present and supportive in that. So even online, there's spaces for ministers to join in from all different types of places and have conversation and feel supported by a peer that is able to listen and be able to talk things out and kind of strategize about where they need to be in the world, and really also focus on self-care and making sure that they're finding the support structures that they need so they don't feel isolated or alone in the work that they're doing. So it's applying that peer mentality to really everything that I do.
I like it. Okay, but what's your favorite Bible verse? Do you have a favorite Bible story?
A favorite Bible story? Of course you'd ask me that. Well,
it can be a series of stories if you want to be extra nerdy.
Fair enough. So I'm, like I told you about my favorite color, it's really the color of the moment. So I'm going to go with the Bible verse of the moment. So I'm not held accountable for my one and only Bible verse. Fair enough? All right.
Low pressure stakes right now.
Right. So feeding the multitude, I think, is an incredible space. And I love that story. I also love the woman who's bleeding for many years. That's a really powerful one for me as well. And I love washing feet. Like, that is lovely.
Mm-hmm.
Those three.
When the woman washes Jesus's feet, or when Jesus washes the disciples' feet, or both?
Both.
All right.
Yeah. And I love the oil, that one with Mary and anointing. I did a sermon on that one. So that comes to mind as well.
Nice. So you're available for sermons? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's definitely a thing. I'm getting better at them. So I spent a year working through that, and I just love the community that cared for me through all of the different versions of myself as I figured that out. So yeah, I would welcome the opportunity to be able to do that for people.
So if you're a congregation on that pulpit supply list and have managed to listen 26 minutes into this, bonus, you have an extra person you can call, right?
You do.
Are there people or like theologies that have enriched your faith? And I ask this specifically because I see 2 books sitting next to me, as if you prepared.
And see, that's the thing about me too, is if you need some help researching or listening deeply into kind of what you might be discerning or thinking about, I'm really good with that, listening and then researching. So a couple of books that I carried with me, like paring down, 30 years of life in a month was interesting. And so we just purged a lot of stuff, but a few books caught my eye. And so I'll share them with you. This one's Learning While Leading. It's Anita Farber Robertson. And then Liturgy of the Ordinary has been kind of occupying me lately. Tish Harrison Warren. I think I picked these up in seminary. And so they've just been really kind of keeping me going here and there as I take the bus from the space that I'm living to here.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I see that one of our favorite deaconesses, Cora Rose, is here.
Hi, Cora. It's great to see you here.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome to go to Mariposa and visit the folk near Yosemite. You already have that invite, so you're good to go. Yeah.
Mariposa Lutheran. You're amazing.
Are there things you think people should know about you that will that would help them kind of get you?
That's a really great question.
I mean, they don't have to. This is a public space. You could just share what you think you would want people in our synod to know. I mean, other ways I've asked this same question is like, are there different ways that you identify intersectionally that you want to share, or ways that you feel like that shapes your way of being in the world? Or but you can answer the question any way you want to. I just am curious because, you know, we've only been getting to know each other for like a week and a half in the same in-person space. And like, so I'm curious, what are the things you think would be helpful for people to know about you as they welcome you into the synod and onto the synod staff?
Yeah, I think, it's a great question. So I think a few things about the way I look at the world are important. Being very present with people is really important for me. It doesn't necessarily mean that I need to be face-to-face, but being very present and focused on one person at a time is kind of my speed. Also, walking alongside people is really important in the work that I do, especially as an executive assistant, kind of walking lockstep with people. So as people are going through change and transition, those two, accompaniment ministry, and then lastly, hospitality, is a huge value of mine. And just being able to care for people well, wherever they might be, and being able to show up for them where they're at. So those are the frameworks that I really see the world through and the lens that I look at. The other parts, I've already talked about peer support and some of the mental health that I work through. I myself live with an eating disorder. And so as part of that work, I really care about how people are nourished with a hospitality type of thing. And, making sure that my needs are met, making sure that other people's needs are met is really important and powerful too. We talked a little bit about chaplaincy, and then I'm a systems thinker. So if you are an Enneagram person, I am an Enneagram 5 with a 4 wing, and I will out my spouse with permission, of course. She is a 4 with a 5 wing, I believe. And we have really interesting conversations about feelings and systems and how those things intersect, even when they don't, which is why I love being Lutheran, because of the both and. Dialectical behavior therapy was also a big part of my own care and treatment. And so the ability of having two completely oddball things that don't seem to fit, and yet holding space for both of them and making them work is just, it just opens me and makes me very alive to be in that place and to wonder and be curious about God in that space, in that liminal space of like, what is God up to? And it's okay not knowing, like knowing that I'm enough when I don't know the answers to things.
Well, that's a really good way to kind of think about being a word and service person, or being a deacon or a deaconess oriented person, because that idea that what you're up to is living out what God is calling you specifically to do in the world, wherever the wind blows, the Holy Spirit blows, right? Is a part of kind of that lifelong journey of like being, that you are called to be present with people and to have a faithful way of being present with people. But the ways that is lived out in embodied ways, could be as diverse as Sister Cora, who's a lawyer working with folk in immigration settings, or someone who's working in a synod office, or working in a hospital, or doing disaster work. And so there's kind of a great variety of trying to figure out the specific way God is calling you to be in the world. And I wonder if this might be like too deep or mystical for what you want to share on a live stream, but like Dietrich Bonhoeffer used to always say that it's like not our job necessarily to like figure out every single possible rule you could follow and follow it, but instead we're called to figure out and try to discern, what am I called by God to do right now? The world is very chaotic, right? Things are very polarized. Synods could do any number of things, right? We could be micromanaging congregations. They don't want that. Don't worry. That's not what we want to do.
Mhm.
But like we could be, producing liturgies for people who are online every single day, or we could have all these ways that we're choosing the things that we're doing. And I think the hardest thing to do is to kind of have a vision for the synod that's like, we're going to follow this lane, to let everyone know, go to a synod assembly and say, hey, y'all, did we pick the right lane? What are the other things that should be a part of our vision? And so I'm just curious if you have a sense of, within the pull of the world,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think you're called to do? Like, are there particular things that are like, this is my call this week? Whether it's like if I said you have to only lick postage stamps for the next month,
Or envelopes. Yeah.
are there ways in which your body would just be like, but I'm called by God to?
Yeah. So let me set my thing up with a framework. Can I?
Yeah. Do
Okay. So a framework I've often used is a ping pong table.
Yes.
So there's what's on my side of the net, and there's what's on the other side of the net, and the other person gets to play the game with me, right? Like, and there's a rhythm to the world. Like things are going well, and then suddenly, like, the person on the other side of the net throws the ping pong paddle at me, and I know they don't want to play anymore, right? Like, it's clear.
Yeah.
But that boundary of being able to come up to the line with people is so powerful for me, and not cross it, right? There's what's mine to own, and kind of as you talked about Bonhoeffer, there's what's mine to own. And so often what I'm trying to navigate and understand is, where's the net? Like, what am I doing this week that is so powerful that I know that I'm called to do it, right? Like, completing tasks is lovely, and we love to check off lists, and that's great. But then the question is how are we moving the needle forward for God's work? Like, what is that mission in the world? And sometimes it's small things, sometimes it's big things. But I'm always willing to show up at the line with someone. So, often, like, I'm working with Catherine or Diana or other people in the team, and it's like showing up that line, trying to create something new, a new thing that's being made. And we're doing that together. And that's a lovely kind of way to know that I have my responsibility, they have theirs, but we can do this together, and we can walk in a commitment together.
Yeah.
That's a huge framework for me.
Yeah. I think for me, it's been like, there's a lot of like paperwork stuff and policy stuff, and sure, like, I can be nerdy in that way, but like, if you took away being able to visit congregations, I would be like, what are we doing? Right. Just being able to show up and share communion with people, and learn what they love and try to love it too, and try to find ways that we can like connect them to other places that also love chickens, and like, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that for me is what it is grouping people together so that as they fulfill their call for God in the world, they know they're not alone, that they have companions, that we have other people who are praying the same prayers. And I love on the prayer live stream, I love when people like from very different parts of the political spectrum or geography are like, let's all pray for the same thing. And it's kind of a really lovely gift when that comes together. I'm hearing in what your answers are that like connecting with people, particularly on a one-to-one, is a big part of that call for you.
Absolutely. And I like what you described, like there's a both and in this work too, right? Like there's, if all you did was follow policies and procedures and were never able to get onto the world, you didn't have that balance, you would feel really frustrated about things and wonder where we're at with that. Similarly, for me, another technique that I've learned along the way for my own mental health is something called the Pomodoro technique, which gives me about 20 minutes of time to really deep focus on something, and then 10 minutes to focus on something that really delights me, right? And so here in the office, as I'm spending that time, it's easy to get discouraged, like something's not working with the computer, or the printer hasn't worked for the 1400th time.
Don't ask about the copy machine.
Don't ask about the copy machine. I'm like building intimate relationships with these inanimate devices. It's really quite hysterical. But as I get frustrated, I notice that I need time to really be able to connect. So, I'll reach out to someone or just spend some time in reading and meditation for just a few minutes to give me, some real kind of comfort and groundedness, and even prayer, just sit in prayer. So doing things that delight me as well to find that balance. So I hear that as well. yeah, I think it's important I do like a good group. Don't get me wrong. Like I can facilitate a great group and really enjoy that, but it's really getting deep, like shallow kind of conversations as much as they're nice and can sometimes move the needle forward. I don't thrive in that. I thrive when people can really kind of sit with some really deep topics and kind of be vulnerable and authentic, which we all try to be, I suppose.
Right? Yeah. I'm curious. A question that I've asked people on a couple of our Just Lutheran live streams when we're talking about people with intersectional diversity is you mentioned some that you embody. You haven't been here long enough for your answer to be about anyone in our synod,
Okay.
because you just got here.
Right.
But are there things you wish people would not stop doing around you, or questions you wish they would not ask that in the past people might have asked? Right, because sometimes knowing how to welcome us is equally as important as knowing, like, I should just, if I have that question, I should keep it in my head, but I don't have to ask it out loud. I don't know if you have any.
No, I don't know that anything particular comes to mind. Often I think, and I think this is a pretty normal human response, I think when people doubt kind of doubt my desire or my willingness to be present or available to people and are like, I don't understand that, or that doesn't make any sense, or who are you? What rock did you crawl out of? Like those kind of things, right? Like how are you to be? You know, it can feel deflating. I think I tend to go back to my ping pong table and remember that it's not about me. Often it's about other people, or you know, it's from the person that's telling me the thing. So you know, I don't always nail the ping pong table, but you know, a lot of times I really try and not take a lot of things personal, because everybody's got their own perspective. So I appreciate that.
See, JJ's easygoing, you guys. It's gonna be fun.
It's all fun.
Why Lutheran, right? Because this is a synod office. You could have gone and worked for the Methodists or the Presbyterians.
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot of thinking about Martin Luther in preparation for said meeting, for conversation. And I think there's something about, when I was a kid, I went to a parochial school, Lutheran parochial school, and it was a requirement to learn the entire small catechism and to know it perfectly and to have great attendance. Like the perfectionism was really struck. And so I really got trapped in, as growing up, thinking that Martin Luther's all about perfectionism, which he's absolutely not. But I'm grateful for the fact that he translated a lot of the Bible translated the Bible into German. And I'm grateful that he created the small catechism, because it gives me language for, like, we are to fear and love God and trust God above all things. And it's taken me a long time to understand fear and use that for myself in my own language as awe and reverence and respect, and not punishment. And so as I've done a lot of thinking through my own theological framework, of course, through 7 years of divinity school, because I took the long road, I realized that because of this ability to have this awe and reverence and a deep, profound understanding of God and our own humanity, and have confession around that and forgiveness, that those components really brought me back to my Lutheran roots. And so that is why I'm Lutheran. Whether I can articulate it great or not, that is what it means for me.
Do you have a favorite hymn?
It is Well With My Soul.
Oh, okay. I see that.
Do you? See that. All right.
I don't know. You seem like a good, like, it's because you just came from Texas. It is Well With My Soul is the most fun to sing with people who have Southern accents.
Huh. I never considered that. That's really cool. I learned something new.
Just the way I feel, I guess.
I appreciate that.
What are the kinds of things you would like people to reach out to you about? Like, in terms of particularly, like, chaplain folk who might be thinking, like, number one, should we just say like, hey chaplain folks, we want to like have regular meetings and like chat about things we can do in our synod, and like, what are things you want people to reach out to you about?
So quite literally, yes. Quite literally, if you are a chaplain and you are hearing this message and you are in the Sierra Pacific Synod, please contact me. Yeah. Because I do want to create a list of, our chaplain type folks in all different layers of that meaning, and to start having conversations, just to get to know each other. There's been so much work, especially if we're working in hospice or hospitals or caring for, sick people at home. There's so much work and support that needs to be done around that. And I think we really have an opportunity for us to just create conversation and some dialogue, listen to each other really well, and kind of have some fun too, if we can, something along the way. So chaplaincy for sure. If you're, trying to figure things out at church and you're just not quite getting to where you need to go, I am learning and I would love to learn with you. So if you have something that you're trying to figure out about the Synod and you're trying to work it out, especially if it's procedural or policy or documents and they need to be printed and mailed to you, please find me. I don't guarantee you I'll have it right like that because we're doing some technological issues, the copy machine. But I want to walk alongside you because I will learn. And again, I love the framework of accompaniment. The obvious scheduling type things, but more than that, I really would love to be able to support you as you're kind of working through change, because there's so much change that happens as we look at the world from a synodical point of view. Like there's just so many congregations and there are all kinds of changes that happen. So I want to be able to walk alongside you with that. Thank you for posting my email address. I
you're welcome.
That was very kind of you.
Is that how you want them to contact you?
Please, email is great.
Okay.
When I respond to you, you'll get my cell phone number. Text and calls are great, and I have wonderful boundaries because I've learned them the hard way.
Yes.
About when things turn on and off and when I'm available. So I'm working that out as we speak.
Yep. We don't post our cell phones publicly because we do get some lewd phone calls at the Synod, and in part because I am transgender. But once you connect with JJ via email, you can get access to that phone number because we haven't really had problems with people who are from our Synod or who are seeking help and support in our Synod, leaving strange voicemails. But it I wanted to say that because there are some people who worry when they call the number that's on the website that a live person doesn't answer. Just leave a voicemail and we'll connect back with you, and then you'll have our direct phone number after that, and it'll be fine. It's a weird thing we deal with here that not everyone has to, but better to take care of you than to deal with some of the other stress and nonsense that happens when we post all of our info online these days.
Yeah, people will find you.
Absolutely. Okay, your favorite thing to do for people is to learn what they like in like a kindness package or a care package. You told me this earlier, right?
I do.
What would you want in your package?
Oh, that's a good one. So I really do like chai lattes. Oh, actually, you know what? Better yet, I love a girl.
Me and Diana.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever tried London Fog, which is the Earl Grey steamed?
Not yet.
It is good. It is good. So a vanilla London Fog, that is good. I like fidgets. I like things that are prayerfully minded. So I have a small pile of, rosaries and a labyrinth that was lovingly given to a good friend of mine who's also a chaplain. And I love good book recommendations. So
yeah, you should be in the Bishop's Book Club.
I should be. That sounds like a great idea. I think I will start that.
If only Catherine could get some books for you.
We have some conversations, Catherine and I, on Monday. We're going to be talking about books.
Ooh, Bishop's Books Club.
Exciting, yeah. Books are good. I love also spending time. So, like, if somebody wants to go and take a walk or go to the ocean or, that type of thing. I love back to accompaniment, hanging out together, spending time. That's always nice.
Would you like colleagues in this area? You just moved here.
Absolutely.
I see some interesting and fun people.
Yeah.
Okay. Just saying.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't
Please
have to.
connect.
I'm just saying. If you want them to connect.
Please connect. You have my email address.
Do you want to do like
Please
a little
connect.
ad right now for the kinds of people you would like in your personal friendship life?
Sure. Again, anyone who likes to have deep conversations,
On walks.
who likes to do adventurous things, hikes and stuff like that. I my spouse and I love going and traveling to wilderness type things and seeing.
Well, you got to go to Pastor Sharon's church then.
I do have to go to Pastor Sharon's
and Mountain
church.
Lutheran.
Thank you. Yeah. So things like that. I do like to sing, so a karaoke wouldn't be the far off thing. I don't know if that's even a thing now these days out here with COVID. But singing, being in church, worship, hanging out, Bible study. Yeah.
In these parts, we call it karaoke.
Karaoke. Okay. I believe you. I don't know. I've never heard that. That's great.
I think
karaoke. Okay.
There's a place we can reserve in Japantown. Maybe that'll be our next staff outing post COVID calming downness.
Nice. I am looking for a piano. I had to leave mine behind. So if you do know someone or a church that would love for me to spend time practicing, I'm not great. I will not be able to accompany anyone. But I used to be a competitive pianist in my youth.
What?
And won competitions. And so now I want to go back and relearn all of that because I haven't given myself the gift of time with that. So
are you hoping for like an electric thingy that is portable and movable because you're in a temporary space? Or you're looking for, you don't care because it's big and worth it because that's your thing?
Well, I'm in a temporary space, so I can't lug anything around. But if a church has a particular piano in their space, or a person wants to get to know me in time and let me borrow their piano in their home.
Or like an upright piano that someone delivered here and then you practiced.
Oh my gosh.
Would be like your favorite?
Be still my heart. Yeah, if you have a piano that you want to donate to the Synod and let me practice with that, I will pay for the tuning. I will put that down in video.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah, you heard it here. I will pay for tuning. Awesome.
It's the getting it here part that's the hardest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, someday when my spouse does move here and all things are well, we have a truck, so maybe with a short bed we can get it there. We'll see.
That sounds good.
With God, all things are possible.
What's another thing that we should know about you? Is there anything else on your? There's cute little notes here, you guys. Are there more things on your notes that you want to make sure you did all this research? I want to make sure you get to talk about it.
You're very kind. Well, I thought you'd ask me more about school, so.
Oh, tell me about school.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So one of the things that I am challenged by is remembering people's names. I'm getting better at it, but please bear with me if I forget your name and ask you a jillion times. Please forgive me. But I wanted to just note some of the people that were really important in school and some of the things that I learned, and then I'm really passionate about. So Christian education and faith formation, just practicing rituals and things along those lines, definitely with the Deaconess community. We love doing that type of stuff. And Professor Mary Hess was just so formative for me at Luther Seminary. Another area that I love talking about and geeking out about. Oh, and I like to play board games, just random. So, and cooperative board games are better than like aggravation or something along those lines. So there's actually one that's called Pandemic that I'm pretty fond of trying to strategize.
My family is very hardcore in the Settlers of Catan varieties.
Oh, yes.
So if you can endure that with an 8 and a 9-year-old, which involves sometimes changing the rules to eat marshmallows in the middle of the game.
Okay.
Then it could be.
Oh, no.
You could have many people to play board games with.
All right.
Saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might take you up on that. We'll see. Andrew Root does some really good work on religion in the secular age. And I really love a lot of his research. And another part of the work in my own internship was finding creative funding strategies. And because I have my MBA and I've been kind of working in that space, it really kind of excited me to do grants and find ways to fund in a situation where a church really couldn't pay for the whole thing. So Grace Pomeroy, Professor Grace over in Luther, did an amazing job of teaching me about entrepreneurial ministry and, looking at the world of church without walls and dinner churches and all the different types of styles of things, and by vocation and, washing people's feet and having conversations on the street, just all these different permeations of the way that we can care for each other and be present. So just wanted to lift some of those folks up.
Well, we have one person who might be interested in being a collegial person to you.
What area am I in?
Pastor Jeremy wants to know.
Pastor Jeremy. Oh, I am right here in the Millbrae area. I'm actually kind of up and down the El Camino Real with different places that I'm living. So if you're local to this area, this is probably where I'll end up settling. So yeah, we'd love to connect. So please email me. I invite you to. If not, we can always be Zoom friends. No one said we can't.
Yeah.
And maybe someday
that's where it went. You mentioned your email. I feel like I should put it up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll find each other along the way. If you're somewhere else, I'm happy to travel once I have a car and can hang out and visit your part of the world. Love that.
You should come on a ride along with the bishop and visit some of the congregations I visit, next time I drive to weird places.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I welcome that. Cool.
Well, if you see JJ around at Synod Assembly or at an event, say hi, because now you know who they are. And they moved here from very far away, and they will be excited to say hi to you because they think it's their purpose in the world to connect with people on the one-on-one,
mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
so whomever reaches out, JJ's into it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Any way we want to close this out? You want to close this out in prayer? That feels like a deacon thing to do.
It does feel like a deacon thing to do. Let's do that, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let us pray. Yeah. God, creator of all things, so grateful for the opportunity for us to spend time together and reflect on the journey that we're all on, and grateful for the opportunity to lift up and have conversation about the work that I'm doing in the world. So thank you for that opportunity. And God, looking for the words to thank you for all of the people who show up today and are cheering me on, and for Bishop Megan and the work that we're doing here at the Synod. We lift you up in prayer, and we do all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. You can email JJ if you have more questions that you want to ask.